All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you. So, based on the continuation, we're going to study a little bit, discuss on causes create this. And I think I would prefer if we keep this like an interactive session. So, at any time, if anybody has any comment or question, just raise your hand and then we can take those questions while we go along. So I'm looking at how I'm going to be doing this is I'm going to be like, we're all going to go on a journey together in terms of really examining how this thing we call cause and effect, how this is really working. Because from our childhood, most of us went through schools, and our teachers have told us basically that, from, I guess, the first grade, and even in the way we live our lives, we've been living in this thing that says, okay, yeah, I did this because of this. So because comes in the picture, and that has the word cause in it, or this particular thing causes this. So for example, if I take a medicine, I say that, yeah, I'm cured because the medicine cured me. Or if I'm living I'm good in my health, I'm doing some gymnastics, exercise, I'm following a good diet, I say, yeah, because of my healthy lifestyle, I'm given health, right? So we kind of give this notion of that because I'm doing something, so I'm eating a healthy diet that is giving me health. So although I know it sounds very obvious that, yeah, no, I don't really think that, but for me at least, it still makes sense to re-examine this because we cannot really escape this particular aspect that we always go through some events, and in our minds, in our understanding, there is always a cause that we attribute something to. And basically, that's how I'm going to start this journey. So with an example. So this example shows that there's an event that happens and the alarm rings. So I normally do the same thing in terms of how many people I'm sure go through the same kind of things. So we set the alarm, that's an event. And the alarm rings, and then I get up. Basically, that's another event. So, and that's usually in the way secular or this generally understood notion of how I think in even the way psychology or scientists, they describe it, they say, yeah, this is the cause. The alarm ringing is the cause, and the getting up is the event that I experience. So another example is that maybe there are, like, let's say the growth of a plant, there are a series of things that are said to be the causes. There's like, you say, okay, I have to sow the seed, then I have to water that particular seed on the soil, and then there's the atmosphere, the air, and there's the energy from the sun that comes in. All these contribute to the growth of the plant. Right? So all these series of events is said to be the cause, and then the growth of the plant is said to be the effect. Any question by anyone? Okay, so now I have this slide called Clear the Clutter, because this is a very general definition that is given by, I guess, I picked this up from one of the academic sites where this particular person had written a lot of books, and she described it, she described it this way, that cause and effect relationship is a relationship in which one event, which is the cause, makes another event happen. And I think this pretty much captures most of the way the definitions are said about cause and effect. And so the word that here is that one event makes another event happen. And if we further break this down, this particular definition, some of the statements are that cause has to occur before the effect. So there's a timeline of things that one thing happens at time 1 and then at time 2, something else happens. So we're gonna examine that as well. Does that make sense? Is that how it is? And then the second one is cause happens, then the effect must occur. So if there's a cause that we think happened, let's say I sowed the seed and I watered and the sunlight is there, so the plant must happen. So the effect must occur. So we're gonna touch on that as well. And consequently, if the cause does not happen, then the effect must not take place. So we will also go into that somewhat. And then the third one is interesting because it says no other factors can explain the relationship between cause and effect. So no other factors, and from what I understood was, okay, because the ones who coined this particular understanding, they're looking at things from the material physical aspect. So they think that something in the universe, if you must be able to find something within the universe. So there is no concept of, at least in the some of the scientific or materialist philosophy, that there's an acceptable answer that something not of this universe can be a cause. So the answer is being looked into from the universe or the material physical aspect itself.
Did you go into further details about this?
Yeah, we will go into.
We will go into.
Yes. We will touch upon some of the based on some questioning things. So, and then this will be addressed.
About the second bullet, if cause happens, then effect must occur.
Yeah. So we will go through an example. And then we will.
But the second statement is different from that. To me, the second statement should be expressed as, if the effect did not occur, then cause hasn't happened.
I guess this is the usual if and only if statement.
If P then Q, that means if not Q, then not Q.
Yeah, but this is not if P then Q. This is if and only if. Yes.
No, it's if then.
Can you speak English, please?
We are already speaking English. No, it's an if then statement. Consequently, if the cause does not happen, then the effect must not take place. It's the negation of the first statement.
Correct, yeah.
If cause happens, effect must occur.
Oh.
It's not the phenomenon.
I've not, further pursue, but it's not, I think.
An explanation can be, for instance, smoking causes lung cancer, but lung cancer, when lung cancer is there, it's not necessary that it's caused by smoking. Some other factor.
Yes, that's the opposite of what you are saying.
Yeah, so it's not a phenomenon, it is if then, one way.
Anyway.
All right, so we'll revisit that in some of the examples. So going back to the first example, so we're gonna examine the causes that we see, that from the alarm, there's sound coming from the alarm clock, right? And the other thing I thought of was there were airwaves, right? So somehow this phenomena from the alarm clock and the airwaves, it reaches one of my eardrums, right? So what can be the cause of me waking up? Is it the part of this airwaves, or is the sound that is coming that is causing me to get up? This may sound a little, obvious to people. Yeah, normally I experience that, yeah, if the alarm rings, I do get up. But for example, this morning, when I woke up, I was still feeling sleepy. The alarm did ring, and then I wanted to sleep a little bit more. So I was thinking, okay, so did I really get up from the sound or the alarm? Is that the cause of it? Or what about the way when I go to sleep? How do I explain that also? Is it because these are like events, these are phenomena that are happening? And can we attribute them to something that is of these things that we see in this universe? But I think the next example may clarify a little bit in the terms of the growth of the plant. So on the left-hand side, I have listed some of the elements that are needed. So for example, water, air, sunlight, soil, atmospheric conditions, which are said to be the usual causes for the plant growth. But then if I examine, let's say, water or air, I mean, do I feel that the water and air know how to grow the plant? Or does it really, because in order to grow the plant or give existence to the plant, I would say, there has to be some will, there has to be power that whatever the source is must possess these qualities in order to give existence to the phenomena of growth of the plant.
May I ask why? Why is it necessary? Why is it necessary for the cause to have willpower, knowledge, wisdom, art?
Yeah, definitely.
So go back from the plant, the growth of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
Now forget about the energy, air, water, soil, etc. Observe the effect itself. See which kind of qualities are manifested in the process of growth of the plant.
Correct. Okay, yeah.
Now, in this process of growing of the plant, we see that conscious choice, deliberate shaping, giving color and decorating it in a way, preparing it for preparing the plant for further chemical reactions processes necessarily needs the providence, knowledge, wisdom, because I can see the manifested in it. For example, no one can say that this project doesn't show any quality at all in its existence, which necessitates it to exist. These qualities are manifested in its existence. I am saying, now come back.
Right, so
start from
correct.
The effect.
Start from the effects. Look
for these qualities in the water, air, energy, whether they have these qualities or not. And then if you cannot find these qualities in the existence of water, air, energy, it disqualifies it. And then what else then? Then it forces human beings, urges human beings to look for the owner of these qualities. What else can own these qualities? So start from effect and go back to the cause. Otherwise, your willpower, knowledge seems to be a biased
assumption. Sure. So we look at the growth of the plant. That's the event, the phenomena that we are going to study. And from the whole process of the growth, we do see that there is some knowledge that is had. As a result of some knowledge that there is growth of the plant. As a result of a choice made by something that this plant is growing. It must be that way, or because if I look at the effect, if I look at the plant, there is an art in there. there is a particular order of things in there. So then I can go, as Dr. Ali was saying, go to the causes, because I'm examining now the causes. So the point is that I first look at the effect and I see how meaningful that effect is. And now I go back to the causes and see, do the causes have those qualities that can give existence to the effect? So since I saw that the effect has a particular order in it, a particular art in it, the one who gave existence to this thing must possess actually knowledge, will, power, at least, to give existence to this effect. And none of these causes seem to have that will, power, knowledge, wisdom.
I have a question. How can one negate the idea of... So currently, I can confirm that the individual, what seems to be the causes, do not have the quality. So for example, I can confirm the water does not have will to give plant the growth. But how can one, I guess, confirm that water combined with sunlight also does not produce, I guess, wisdom in that sense? Like, how can one negate the idea that multiple causes coming together do not contribute that?
Yeah, so I mean, examine them, right? Look at those each causes and even combination of them. Study them and see, do they show any sign of will? Do they show any sign of power? So for example, the hydrogen molecule and oxygen molecule, when you combine, you get water is the result, right? But you can study them individually, and the combination, do they show any quality to give existence to that they form together and result into water?
I have a question. So what we're saying is that the way you look at something first, like you observe it, you're looking at the result, right? So for example, you look at the tree. So what do you see in the tree, right? It's manifesting certain qualities, like...
Yeah.
Or I question, how did it come into existence? So I apparently see that it came into existence from a seed. This is how it goes. So from the effect, I'm going to the cause. Or from the effect, I look at the meaning in it, the qualities, and from there I'm connecting it to the cause.
Yeah. So you look at the effect and you see what kind of qualities does it show for it to be coming into existence, right? So, for example, what are some of the benefits of a tree? Like the qualities I can think of that we get oxygen, right? It provides shade. It's a source of like some animals and insects. It's a nutrition for them, right? So do any of these sources show that there's some wisdom in it? That do they know that, hey, water says, okay, for example, I can, let me give existence to this tree so that it will benefit some of the animals. Is that possible for the water to say that? Or for any of these causes that we think, air, sunlight, soil? Or any other quality, if you can, whatever you see. So just looking at the existence of any tree, right? Because we are examining water or air, for instance. How can something that itself needs to be given existence, water, can give existence to something else, when itself, the thing, needs to be given existence?
So how can water give existence to the tree?
Yeah.
So we're really going from the effect to looking at the qualities, which could be like you said, the plant is used for nutrition but what I'm trying to get at is like, how do I get to these qualities that you have mentioned there? Will, power, knowledge, wisdom, art.
Yeah, so this is an example. So looking at any tree, you can see that it's made by a conscious choice. So there is somebody willed it and the tree exists. It just cannot happen randomly. It cannot happen by itself.
Is that how humans think? As in, I understand that, yeah, this is coming into existence by will, but like, how do I develop that? Oh, it's coming from like knowledge or some sort of power. How does that take place? Yeah.
How do we come to see those qualities?
Sure, yeah.
Right. So as a human being, we exercise our whatever faculties we are given to question. So from like the first discussion, we said we need to get answers. We have certain questions, right? And there's a particular methodology that was followed after that. We need to question so that we get satisfaction onto our human side gets the satisfaction in terms of what the answers we're gonna get. So if we use our human qualities, consciousness is one of them, right? To question and see, wait, look at this tree. How come it exists? Why is it there? Does it seem purposeful to me or not? And so it should build gradually based on how the consciousness, how much is exercised. Consciousness is exercised. And you can, I think a human being is able to go and see that there are certain qualities that are manifested in that particular thing.
It may be easier to see when one of these qualities are absent, then we can more easily see that what happens in the absence of that quality, and then you say, oh, then it was because that quality was present that I was observing a tree in its current form. For example, if you're a carpenter, you produce some carpentry, right? So what could my work look like if I didn't have enough carpentry knowledge? What would my product look like? Suppose I don't have the good carpentry knowledge. It wouldn't look nice at all, right? So anyone who looks at that work of art or work of carpentry would say he doesn't know what he's doing. Or if I don't have the wisdom of carpentry, I might use more materials than necessary or things like that, right? And I know how to do carpentry, and I don't know the tips and things. Or if suppose I know nothing of art about art and carpentry, so all maybe if it's a table, it would look like a table, but it may not have the artistry, right? However, if they all come together, then you can say, if you know how it looks like in the absence of those qualities, then you can more comfortably say that, oh, in this work of art, I see work of carpentry, I see art, wisdom, knowledge, they're all there, because I know what happens in the absence of these qualities. So when you look at a tree, then you can say, I see all of them.
So you started off your argument saying that if these qualities were absent, so how do I go on? Starting with...
my suggestion, which may make sense or may not, is think of what would it be like if there wasn't power there.
Actually, generally we miss the emphasis on the existence of the thing and the existence of the qualities. We shouldn't separate them. Generally, we tend to separate them because, for example, if I'm talking about the existence of Qasim, I cannot avoid talking about the existence of his shape, existence of his color, existence of what quality that cosm has. We need to consider all of the qualities which are already existing on the thing right now, and we need to question the existence of it and the qualities as a whole. Generally, we are separating for example, we are talking about the existence of plant or leaf, then we are talking about can cause this, can do this. But for example, when we remember your carpenter example, it makes sense. Why? Because when we are talking about the existence of table, we are not just talking about the existence of something. We are talking about an art, because we are talking about a knowledge. Because if you don't have knowledge, you cannot even make it that kind of single, very simple table, right? If you don't know how to do that, you cannot do that.
Can someone repeat that analogy that Brother Zafar gave out earlier? Like, how did it start off? So there's a
carpenter example.
He has nothing. He has no tools, and then how did it start off?
The
Quality.
The product will look a lot different depending on the extent at which I have all these qualities, right? So if I don't have a lot of power,
Right.
my product will look different depending on how much I exhibit those qualities.
Can I make it? I don't know if we really need to look for like an in the case of like absence of equality, what happens? Let's just like take a very simple example, like the computer that is in front of you right now. And do you have any single case that you can show in human history that a product like that computer actually came to be without having any knowledge of it and without having the means in terms of material, in terms of power, like money-wise, to be able to make the investment to make it? And also, is there any case that like actually whoever is making that product didn't have any kind of understanding of the human needs? Do we experience any situation like that in human history? Isn't that the case, like what we experience in our daily life, day-to-day basis? So like, is there any case that like an Apple computer can come to being without having any kind of science of it behind it? There is no such thing. Like, this is like, if we say yes, we do, that's technically going against our observation and experience. This is who we are, and this is what we experience on day-to-day basis. And then the question is, when it comes to understanding the existence of the plant, which is much more complicated than the computer itself. So what makes us to think that we should just ignore the fact that we shouldn't be looking for any kind of willpower, wisdom, and knowledge for that plant to come into being? I think that's the question.
Just for the sake of making the distinction, you were talking about causality, gave the definition for causality with this if-then statement. So, for example, in this case, what would we normally do? We would take the energy out and we will not get plant growth. Or we will put energy but take the air out. We are not going to take the plant growth. Therefore, we say air has some share in there, energy has some share in there. So in this carpenter example, it resembles this one. So I would like to avoid giving the example in the same flavor. Instead, the method that Dr. Ali was suggesting, starting from the qualities that we observe in the plant growth. So since it's not going to come out of the blue, I mean, I do observe some will, some art, some power in there. So it has to come from somewhere. And then we are suggesting that we do observe water, air, energy on the other side of the equation. So they should have them somewhat. I mean, even when we say, well, water and air, neither one of them has knowledge. But if you merge the two, it becomes knowledge. Still, it doesn't make sense. I mean, there was no knowledge whatsoever. So still the question becomes valid. How do you say that two things does not
With no knowledge. When they get together, they have some knowledge. Yeah.
Still, we need to ask the question, where is this coming from? So this is why the two methods are quite different, and we need to separate the two. So in plant growth, we do observe manifestation of knowledge. Therefore, there must be some sort of knowledge in the cause part. But the apparent causes are, none of them displays knowledge in them. Therefore, we say these are not the causes for that. I mean, they cannot be.
So if we were to take one of these elements out, as you suggested, we take sunlight out and we notice that the plant doesn't grow. In that instance, as I observe the plant, let's say decomposing or not growing, I start to conclude that the plant is meaningless, or I guess it's no more useful. How can I prevent myself from saying that the sunlight had a role in its beauty, in its growth, in its wisdom? I think the mistake that one ends up making is not attributing the beauty or wisdom to the sunlight, but rather stopping at that point. But it's stopping at that, I guess, level and saying, okay, sunlight is the is the result of the beauty. When you can further investigate sunlight as an effect itself, and say, okay, what causes the sunlight? And I understand that it could be a rabbit hole in terms of how far and back can you go. But we're not necessarily, I guess, talking about just the material things, but rather the theoretical understanding of the same wisdom or the same knowledge being carried by, I guess, the sun itself. Does the sun have the knowledge or wisdom to create sunlight? And I think once you start questioning this chain, at one point it breaks. At one point you find out that the sunlight doesn't have the wisdom, but because the sunlight itself needs to be given existence. It needs to exist. And then you get to, I guess, the sun for that matter, and you say, okay, does the sun has the wisdom to create, sunlight, and then you say, okay, even the sun needs to be given existence. Yeah.
You don't need to go any further. I mean, once you observe that because it is sunlight right before the plants, and if you don't observe such quality in sunlight, you don't need to go any further, because the knowledge just pops up out of the blue in your equation, because you didn't observe knowledge in the sunlight, so there's no need for going any further, because for this equation, knowledge is a totally different entity in here, and energy becomes void.
I'm actually saying that if you remove sunlight and the plant does not grow, which allows me to conclude that...
Not really. Actually, he's going to show an example for that.
Okay.
I mean, this is how we get used to, but it doesn't mean.
I see.
And there's no logical necessity.
Okay. I will wait.
Can I ask a question before I go on? Yeah. So I understand what will, knowledge, wisdom, art, and order, how they're like not obvious in the causes, right? What exactly does power refer to? I just have, what does power mean, and how do we conclude that that's also required in the growth of the plant?
It's very simple. In the existence of the leaf to come into existence, it needs power to bring it into existence. If there is no power, it cannot give existence. Power represents the power to create. To create. So the very existence of, not the qualities, existence of the leaf with its own qualities. The existence needs power to create.
The reason I was confused was because you have energy there, and I was wondering if power was referring to like
No, these are, I think you are going to mention maybe the horizontal relationship. When you look at the flat plant itself, it looks like as if it is coming into existence, the combination of
sequence of events.
Not only these, more also things. But when you go back to refer the existence of plant and existence of the qualities manifested in the plant, and search for these qualities in these apparent things that they are causing. They seem to be. They don't have it. They are subject. They themselves are subject to order. They have no free will. They have no power to give existence to another thing, etc., etc. So I think it's easy to understand.
Alhamdulillah. Can we proceed a little bit? At least for the next slide. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
There are lots of leaves here.
Yeah.
Talk about.
Yeah, so just to move on, continuation of like when we look at the effect that we see, basically, and we see like all varieties of different kind of leaves, right? How come that one is like coming from the same soil, use the same sunlight from the same atmosphere we see? How come this is determined that this is going to be the shape of this particular leaf? One is longer, one is round. There's like an infinite variety. So what possible cause can be responsible for such a thing?
DNA. Say it again from DNA.
I'm just
DNA is subject to order itself. It is a slave of the order itself and doesn't have any quality in and of itself. It is like another soil or sunlight.
DNA itself is another leaf. DNA itself is another leaf in this picture.
I guess it's like the synonym to say that we have variety of leaves and variety of DNA encodings. They are synonyms.
Yeah.
So if you are asking like the source of this variety, you should also ask the source of the encoding inside the DNA. I guess it's the same thing.
The same thing, yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. Instead of leaf, you can reason or talk about DNA, the existence of DNA as well. This leaf is an example of everything.
Correct, yes. Every single being that we see in the universe. Exactly. We are going by simple examples that we all encounter in the universe. So, okay, moving on. So this is one of the questions that I think is essential that we ask. I think so for any cause that we encounter, I would ask, can you, apparent cause, be the source of existence of the event that has resulted? Does that sound like a valid question to ask?
I guess I can confirm that I'm not the source, but I can also not deny that I play a role in the existence of the event. For example, the sound of a snap does not exist right now until I snap. So in this instance, I'm playing, or I guess I have been given the ability to play a role in the creation of existence, but I'm definitely not the source of sound or the ability to snap. So this goes back into my question, which I will hold further. But at what point it depends on at what point you stop. If I say I stop at the level of my...
Stop at the first step.
First.
Not the second step. Don't go, Yusuf pointed out that, pay attention.
I'm waiting for the answer.
No, Yusuf gave the answer.
In here, you is referring to, things get a little bit complicated when it comes to human, but I guess by you here, Asim is asking you to leave and to any plant or something.
Anything.
Because when it comes to human free will, things are going to get a little bit complicated. For now, reserve it. But at the level of a leaf, for example, because when we look at the leaf, we say that this tree is making the apple, let's say, and then he asks the question to the tree, can you be the source of existence of this apple, sort of? And this is where this equation is coming into picture. What do I observe in the apple versus what do I observe?
Correct. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go back to the slide, and one thing, the correction, that's my suggestion.
Sure.
Because the event itself is nothing but the combination of the qualities appeared on it. So, okay, now I'm rereading the sentence and adding one piece into it. Can you, apparently cause, ask the question to sunlight, energy itself, DNA itself, any combination.
Any being in the,
Can you, or the apparent cause, be the source of existence of the qualities that I observe in the event that has resulted. So the event itself, it should not be separated from its qualities, because if it is separated, no quality, no event. So the quality must be in focus, zoomed on.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah, so this is the example of how we can practice. So as Yusuf was saying, that if we go to an apple tree and we're questioning what the source of existence of the apple is, we can ask the tree, hey, can you be the source of existence of the apple? Is basically, again, going to the qualities. We just name it apple, but it's full of qualities, right? It has a particular flesh and has a taste, has a texture, size, shape, and when you eat it, you get some satiation from it, as opposed to some other particular fruit that you eat. So it is full of qualities, and we label it for our communication purposes as an apple. So we ask, okay, can you, the tree, be the source of existence of those qualities that I experience in the particular apple? And again, this is an example, basic example we can apply to anything, any being in the universe. So whatever we think that could be the cause of that, we can ask the same question, can you be the source of this particular thing? There are qualities that I see, can you be the source of that?
And that's a good point you bring up in terms of like how we look at things. We label them, we name them, that's an apple, but actually we're interacting with the qualities, right?
Yeah.
And like the moderator said earlier, the thing and the qualities, they're given existence altogether.
Yeah, so
also we have to bear in mind and bring into the attention of the mind that tree and the apple coexist at the same time.
Correct, yes.
Nothing is prior or after.
So this is correct. This is the one, I was going to go back to the definition that is that the cause must happen first at T1 and the effect happens at T2. But yes, this is the point. Thank you for bringing it up, that both the tree and the apple are given existence at the same time that I'm experiencing it. Both of them happen at that moment.
Yeah. If there is any change in the second, not T point, but moment, but T2 to T1 point, T2 point also, the same change happens in the existence of tree and in the existence of the apple as well. It is another frame in the chain of frames, which we call it time. Otherwise, nothing prior to other.
I'm sorry, so can you elaborate on this? How can an apple exist if the apple tree isn't there?
They coexist, man.
How?
We are talking this.
No, but clearly the apple would not be there if the tree was not there first.
No, not the first. They coexist at the same time.
How?
Huh? As you see it.
No, but apple clearly wasn't on the tree, and the tree wasn't even there until the tree created.
That time, whatever the time slit you are looking at,
right?
Whatever whatever exists, it exists in the same time.
Dr. Murray, so let's say it's winter, right? The leaves, and well, we're in a good spot right now, but normally the leaves are all fallen off, and there's clearly no apple. And in this given time slot, if I'm understanding this right, you're saying the apple and the tree exists.
Coexist.
At that given time. Show me the apple. Don't I have to observe the existence of the apple though?
No, at that given time when there is no apple, it's only tree that exists.
Yeah, whatever you experience at that moment.
Tree. You cannot question something that you don't experience.
Right. So now fast forward into a different time frame where the apple starts to appear.
And that's what you experience.
Yeah, you experience both of them and are given existence anew at that time.
New type of existence.
I see.
Every day is a new existence. Every moment is a new existence.
I mean, you shouldn't get lost in the historical accounts. Just look at what you experience at this very moment and question the existence.
It's a new tree. It's not the same tree.
The new existence. Creation. Oh, if you like.
Did you get that one? Did you get that idea?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to get.
But how can I confirm this?
Yeah. Thank you.
Observe it. You are a human being. See it and use your human qualities. Question, if you want to question, use your questioning ability to question it.
I guess we never questioned the other way around, which we took for granted. I mean, the method of taking the sun out, there is no apple, and then putting sun back, taking the air out, so we take this method for granted, and our conclusion became somehow, this is what we mean by causality. I mean, the causal relations in our minds are being established as if this methodology tells me about real cause of the effect. But he's going to show that, actually he's going to challenge that. If this is really telling us anything about causality at all, this method, does it say anything about causality or not? But this is a very fundamental question.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions, comments?
We are here to listen to you, not us. It's your session.
Okay. So I think now we're going to move a little bit to the next stage of how we're going to examine this cause and effect relationship. Because to the way we experience things, we see that things do come together, right? You do have the man sowing the seed, you do have the sunlight, you do have water, you do have soil for the plant to actually grow. Yeah, so all these things are actually necessary and they all come together. I mean, we examine that they don't have the qualities that are needed to actually grow the plant, but they do follow an order in terms of the way this creation is, the way we observe it, that we do need to act on it as to sow the seed. We do need the sunlight. We do need all of this. And this, as we saw, cannot be the cause. And this is called by at least known as association. Right? It's a word that says that, hey, these are kind of associates. They're not the cause, but they are needed in the order of the way the universe functions. So you do need sunlight, you do need water, you do need soil for the actual plant to grow. That is how the order is. Right? So continuing on that, So the existence of the apple or any fruit or anything results from the conditions and preliminaries, basically. So these are the conditions, as was mentioned, that we do need the soil, water, tree. So these are necessary. They're not the cause, as we saw that, but they are the preliminaries.
What do you mean by preliminary?
Yeah, so I would just say, put a quotation mark around this necessary, because we should revisit this word, I guess. Because when you say necessary, it looks like what Asim was saying. They have a role in it, as a...
Yeah, necessary in terms of the order that exists in this.
It's beforehand.
Right.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Requirement.
If you show this slides, I guess it would be more...
Yeah, so you were asking about preliminaries, right? So these are things that we need, that in this order that we have to have. So let's say you don't sow the seed, you will not get anything, right? There's no plant that grows. So the seed has to be sown. It is one of the conditions that has to be met in the order of the universe.
So that's really referring to the order, right? The preliminaries.
Yeah,
so the elements we talked about, like early on. Air, water, energy, plus gives you
the order in the universe. I mean, we know that, right, from observation, that if we don't sow then the seed, then there is nothing that grows, right? Or if I don't apply to school, for example, to a program, if I don't send the application, then what am I expecting for my admission to happen without actually sending it?
Us experiencing this.
So, if I may ask the same question, in this statement, if we're saying that they're preliminaries or they're kind of prerequisites or requirements for the existence of the fruit, of the apple, then going back to the claim that if I eliminate one of these items, if I eliminate water, within that first observation, how can I conclude that water is not the source of the existence of the fruit?
All right, let's keep that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, this is one of the fundamental message of the both this presentation and the whole presentations. For example, as I understand from the Asim's presentation, he invites us to think that what do you need to plant fruit tree? Asim's suggestion is that you may think that you need soil, water, tree. Asim's suggestion is that no, you need to will, power, knowledge to plant tree. This invitation tries to emphasize or highlight that when we say that we need soil, water, tree to plant tree, at the same time, simultaneously, consciously or unconsciously, we imply that soil, water, tree has will, power, and knowledge. What do you think about that? This is the main fundamental question of the Asim's presentation.
If I may add to what the moderator, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Yeah, Yunus.
Yunus, okay. So what Yunus said, basically we have to question everything. So there's an order in creation. So these are just examples. So let's say whatever you observe, you say, oh, is the sunlight causing this tree to come into existence? So then you question the sunlight. Is the air causing the tree to come into existence? Then you question the air. So there's no thinking of, if air was not there. So I guess that's illogical to be thinking that way. So whatever we observe, right? So whatever comes. So let's say somebody did not observe water. They're like, oh, air and sunlight. So you'll just question the elements you see, obviously. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And also, inshallah, in the last session, in Isra's session, we will talk about that because you asked, like, okay, you are persuading you are trying to persuade me to understand that causes or itself or nature cannot have those kind of qualities. But whether you are right or not, I need water to get rid of my thirstiness. I'm thirsty and I need to get. So, what's your fundamental message? Then in the last session, inshallah, Isra will talk that if nature or causes or itself cannot contain those qualities, but I'm observing somewhat so-called associations between them, and if I don't say some good words to my wife, she cannot be happy. I'm observing this all the time.
Because she's not here.
Yeah, because she's not here right now.
It's easy.
But so, what's your message? How can you solve this? This is my human question. I need to make my wife happy. Okay, this is my problem. What's your message? And he has some message, and inshallah, Isra will touch on those kind of issues. Please keep your question. Go further a little bit. Keep your question alive.
So going on to the association. So to Qasim's question, I think, right? So the non-existence of the tree, since we don't observe the tree, is the cause of the non-existence of the fruit. Because we don't experience, there is no tree, so the fruit does not exist, right? So we can't really talk about that. And the second one is the non-existence of the fruit occurs through the non-existence of a single condition, which is, I think, where you were heading, right? So if a single condition is, let's say there is no sunlight, for example, or there is no seed for your plant. Yeah, so you don't experience, because you haven't followed the order of the way things are. So even one of them is missing, you won't get the result.
So why something cannot cause, like water cannot cause the fruit, but non-existence of one of the non-existence of water causes non-existence of fruit?
Is that what you're suggesting or what you're opposing? It's not clear, the first one.
Non-existence doesn't exist. How it is going to
So the first
thing, you are a mathematician.
So I'm trying to understand the statement.
The first one, right? The non-existence. So since it's not there, I should not even talk about it, because there is no tree, so there we cannot talk about the fruit.
So you are talking about association.
Yes.
Yeah. That's our imagination.
So, if I understand correctly, I mean, you say the way we're presenting this.
So I will, with these assumptions, I will go somewhere. Basically, then, I mean, does the first statement make sense or doesn't?
Yeah, I think it does. Hold my question or comment until you're done with the next slide. But I can see why this would be confusing to someone who doesn't really get this. And when you say it is not the cause, but you say it is an association, at the surface they look like the same thing, right? At the surface. But when we're talking about our human consciousness, that's when we're really making the distinction. I mean, the whole issue of it being a cause,
right?
Or like you're saying, the non-existence of the tree is the non-existence of the fruit,
right?
And that's a causal statement there too, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And so the real problem here is not the issue to me.
That's the time for moderation. Okay. Thank you for all of the comments and the questions. Awesome. I want you to finish your presentation.
Yes.
You don't have so much time. Then leave us to ask some questions. Okay.
Yeah. So based on the association that we because we observed those things that, that if you don't sow the seed, you don't get, or any of the conditions is not met, you don't get the result for it. So we think, based on that reasoning, we think that the existence of the tree is also the cause of existence of the fruit. So that's the question I was really going to from those statements, that is this correct based on establishing, seeing, observing that, okay, I see that if I didn't sow the seed, then I don't get the tree. So does the seed play any part in it? I'm attributing some sort of causality, like this can be a cause for this particular existence of the fruit, right? So does that make sense? That is what normally, when we are thinking about things, we usually come to this question. We think that this is how it is, when I'm challenging that this is not the case.
But isn't that kind of what you said in the slide before? Just before this, didn't you say something like that in that slide?
So the slide before is non-existence, right? We don't exist. It doesn't exist, so there's no use to talk about whatever the result is. There's no tree, so that we cannot really talk about the fruit.
How many slides left?
I think
3, 4.
there are some comments. I think it would be good to take them.
Yeah, just a minute. How many slides do you have?
I think 4 or 5.
Because then it's too late.
Because there are lots of questions here, and there are lots of resistance here right now.
You need to go with this dog example. It might solve a lot of questions.
I think you touched all of the points. You can go further.
Yes.
Because there are lots of comments
Just
here.
a small comment.
But it might help,
Definitely.
Small comment based on the two statements.
Excuse me. Okay, you will be the first person who will talk about this issue. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So basically, we should not confuse between associates and cause. They're two separate things. Associates are not the cause. So all those things that we examined before earlier, they were simply associates. They were not the cause of the existence of the particular thing that we observed. So in the case of the plant, all the preliminaries or the conditions that were there, the soil, the seed, the water, they are the associates. And okay. Oh, look, I just got a package. So the one who delivered to me, I'm not gonna say, hey, hug me, you are the one who actually sent me. It was a delivery person. It was a package that I received, right? Just to make it a little fast forward, but this is one of the last slides that I have. Yeah, the last. Yeah, so the way, in psychology, many of you might have seen this, right? Pavlov's dog's experiment, that when he experimented by ringing a bell, right? The dog. Okay, let me start from the first one. The first is like when looking at the food, right? The dog starts his salivating process or salivation, right? The saliva comes out of the dog because that's how he sees it. And then in the experiment, by ringing a bell to the dog, nothing happened. But then in the third one, he was conditioned that with the ringing of the bell, the food was also displayed. So now the dog was conditioned, or is conditioned to see that when the bell rings, the food is there. So the salivation process, the saliva starts coming. So then in the fourth one, because now the dog is conditioned, right? He thinks, he associated the ringing of the bell to the food. Now any time the bell rings, the dog thinks that, because he associates that the ringing of the bell is the food. So he links the association of the bell thinking that is the food. So that's the analogy of a dog, but then again, we are humans, right? So it was.
Excuse me. First question comes from here. You're okay.
All right, thank you. Question and answers.
Thank you. It was not a question, it was more of a comment based on the two statements you made. It's very simple to understand those two statements. There's nothing, understandable about it because it's just like conditions, like if P, then Q. If not P, then not Q. So the whole statement you had about non-existence of something, then obviously, again, it's a condition. Then you have the non-existence of the effect. So that made total sense. Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to say that there is something to, like when there's no water, the tree doesn't grow. So this is a fact that is important to keep in mind because that's why we get confused. Like if we smash the laptop,
right.
the tree still grows. So we don't make that connection like, laptop is needed for the tree to grow. We don't say that.
Correct.
You smash it, you lose it, tree still grows. But there's something, so that's too easy. Nobody associates laptop with the
Correct.
tree. Because there's, you get rid of the laptop, nothing happens.
Things that are in close proximity or things that
even if it's very close, even if you put your phone right into the tree, still you take away the tree, nothing happens. So you say, well, this is not related. So how do we make these initial connections? Because there is that argument from absence that when I take it out, when I don't water it, it starts going bad. Mm-hmm. When I take away the oxygen, and that's the crux of it. That's why it is important to reflect deeper, because commonsensically you say, well, then it's playing a role. And this also helps us survive in the world. Like I need to put water because otherwise it doesn't. So it's not a very kind of easy thing like the laptop. It is harder because there is a connection there. But in the second step, we need to go deeper, and that's where I find I came in late, but your reference to knowledge and power and will is important, because then you say, well, yes, if there is no water, there is no tree, it doesn't grow. But on the basis of this alone, can I say that water makes the tree grow? It looks intuitively, yes, maybe, but actually, if you go deeper, water doesn't have any knowledge.
Correct.
But this is a very intricate process.
Right.
How could it be doing it? Then that becomes a breakthrough. You say, well, water seems to be a cause, but actually it's not a cause. Right. It can't give life. It doesn't have life.
Correct.
It's ignorant.
The way it started was we examined by looking at the effect if the causes have these qualities. Mm-hmm. So there was a slide on that. Mm-hmm. And you're right, absolutely.
Yeah, and then you come back and say, well, then what do I call water? Because if I don't put water, it goes away. I need to make sense of that. Then you say, well, this is the way it's set up. Then you come up with a new thing called condition, right? So it's an example I like to think about is going to a hotel and putting a card at the door for the room to be cleaned when you leave. So if you put the card, hanging outside of your door, you come back, your room is cleaned. If you don't put it, it doesn't get cleaned. So there is a connection there between the card and the room being cleaned. Uh-huh. But not that the card cleans the room, but there's a system in the hotel that they say, well, if she puts it out, we are going to clean her room. So the hotel management cleans it, but there is a connection. There is a connection. If you leave anything else, the room doesn't get cleaned. If you hang anything else, it doesn't get cleaned. So there is connection, but that connection then becomes not that piece of paper is able to clean your room, but that piece of paper is a condition for your room to be cleaned by the management company. So we start making these connections, but we don't start seeing these things as agents, as causes themselves.
Correct. They all become associates.
Yeah, associates, you can call it this.
Or they're correlated or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually my question follows that logic. I think what comes in next, what I'm questioning right now is, if, say for a seed to become a tree, water, soil, and energy are associates.
Yeah.
Then why are they associates? If they don't play a role in the growth of the tree, why are they there? What's the point of having them if they play no role at all?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a given, though. That's how the order of the universe is. It's a given. Those elements are a given. So
By who?
I mean, based on our observation, we do see that this is the order that is there in the universe. That's why we call them laws, right? Or these are.
Do we have another session for this question?
Yes, both Yusuf and Isra will touch on this issue.
The answer to this very important question.
Yes, very important question.
So, because we use the expression cause and effect, is the source of confusion. We should use the expression and we should really think in terms of effect and cause, not cause and effect.
We should reverse it.
Any problem? Because it causes in our mind that I have to concentrate on the cause first and the effect next. In fact, human mind and the reality of existence out there doesn't work in this way.
It's an effect that we
I can see the effect and then question the cause and then raise it. If I don't take this one into account, then it becomes a source of many confusions, not only the one Khaliq asked. So, I mean, that is how the commonly used cause and effect everywhere.
Right.
Because of the materialist view, invented this cause and effect relationship. Yeah, but in reality, it is in a bias phrase, or the product of a bias mind's phrase. So we have to be realistic as we see in the world. We see nothing at all but effect. And then human qualities necessitate that I have to look for the existence of this effect. Look for the cause of the effect now. That is very important. We should change it.
Yes, go this stuff. But
so I understand that we need to look at the effect and then look at the causes. Do the causes exhibit the properties I see on the effect? And I see that there's not just 1, 2, 3, 4 causes. The whole universe
correct
is associated with the effect. And I can't find the qualities exhibited on the effect. And I can't find any cause as the source of the effect. I understand this makes sense, but my problem is that I can't still avoid becoming a Pavlov's dog. What do I do? Like, for example, I turn the switch on and the light comes on, right? And I like turning on the light. I like living in light.
Yeah.
Right? With light. And I think about it. I look at the cause. The switch cannot give existence to the light. There has to be a power supply somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Power factory somewhere. And there has to be a system of a grid, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Granted,
that doesn't go through our mind at all. Yeah.
Right? But day to day, I look at the switch when I want to light.
Yeah. Right? So that's what our conditioning is.
That's a very, very misleading example. Sorry, Zafar. In creation, you don't have to put any switch on. Light is always there. So it is a very misleading example. Avoid it. Forget about it.
What's misleading? I didn't get that. In creation, I understood, but why that's not a good analogy?
In creation, there is no switching on and the tree comes on. So I see in the creation, the light is there, and I question the existence of light itself.
I don't, but why it doesn't apply to Zafar's switch?
Because it starts from the switch. It is human construction.
What if someone says you put the seed and then the plant comes?
But if you see the creation itself, at a moment, you have to question the existence of that seed. that event.
Independent of anything else you're saying.
But because we have to see the creation as it is, we cannot imagine anything else. So you put the seed, okay, that's one existence. You have to question the qualities of the seed itself as it exists. So it is at that slit of time, you have to question the existence of the seed itself, not the tree, because you don't know the tree yet. But this is associations. That's a good word. I learned it today. This is associations that we extended throughout our experience. And we imagine that the seed will grow into a tree because of our previous experiments.
Mm-hmm. But it's fallacious to start that.
Associations. This is just our associations. All the associations are our imaginations, not real.
Yeah, go ahead. Based on the presentation and also listening to the questions, it seems like there is a confusion with the definition of cause and effect. The way that I understand, cause and effect doesn't refer to the order in the universe. It's rather an interpretation of the universe itself. So there is like a specific definition, how should I say, already assumed assumption, definition to it, that actually it refers to a specific interpretation of the existence or the universe. But when it comes to the order, it is an observation. And it seems like when we talk about those association, orders, cause and effect, it seems like we are interchangeably using them. And that's where the confusion coming from.
I wanted, Professor, I really enjoyed your slide on the leaves, the various leaves we see in creation. Actually, I had my aha moment because we don't really question. They're coming from the same source of existence. That's amazing.
It is, yeah. If you really we exercise our human faculties and qualities, every moment we can cherish that, inshallah.
Existing together with the existence of the universe.
Yeah, I wish I had that. Those aha moments more and more.
Since we, I guess, still have 10 minutes.
8 minutes.
8 minutes. Would you like to go back to your box example and tell us more about what you mean by the qualities? Because at the beginning you said qualities in an apple, but I guess...
So the qualities, yeah, so you were saying...
this guy.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I went very fast on this one, actually. So the point I wanted to make that, okay, so I received this package, but I did not order anything. So I questioned, okay, where is this package coming from, right? And this package contains something that I really needed, actually. So, and when I look at the package, I see that, it's coming from my mom, right? So I had a need, right? So this person who is sending me knows me, right? Has to know me that I have this particular need, right? This person who is sending me has compassion quality that, because I'm in need and this person realized it, right? So that's the way how we are able to experience the qualities. I mean, the more we actually examine, the more qualities we should be able to see, right?
Examine the box.
Examine the box, yeah. The event, the effect that I see, right? The more I say, hey, somebody is really loving, somebody's really caring, somebody thought of me when I look at the box. So all these are qualities that whoever sent that must possess all these particular qualities.
And it is coming with this guy.
Right, and this guy who's presenting it is an associate, right? So I cannot see this guy as the cause of all these qualities, because he is not the one who knows me. This guy does not know I have this need. This guy does not have the compassion that I felt when I saw the package.
He doesn't even know what's in the box. He doesn't even know what's in the box.
Exactly. Yes. Good point.
And that's exactly the point I wanted to touch. Like, we get into this trap, you'll be like, oh, thank you. Like, it's coming from that person. Or then you question, okay, who's the sender of the box, right? So yeah, these are like the traps that apparently, human beings fall into.
So I'm going to make a statement, but just to provide some context around it. If what I'm observing is the effect, and the effect allows me or introduces me to question the source behind that effect, and I find additional, let's say, associates, and even those associates in a way are effects of something else. So is it fair to say that this universe is, instead of a cause and effect or effect and cause relationship, but rather an effect and effect relationship, and that nothing has the ability to be the cause?
Yeah, so you can say all that we see are actually effects.
Yeah.
So just very quickly, I wanted to thank you for adding, because I have this question in my mind, thinking about the creativeness of the universe or reality, and what you've added with your comments about this is that one way to understand this idea of creativeness is to understand things happening deliberately and directed at me by a will.
There's like when I look at the effect, right? There is a conscious will that is required for that particular event.
Right. So the
for me to experience.
What appears to be the cause, as soon as it drops. As soon as it sort of throws up as soon as it reveals itself as this guy carrying the box.
Correct. It says, I have no idea what I am in need of myself, I need to be.
So it immediately discloses that this bag is not from me, therefore, and it discloses a will directed at me, and a will, and then furthermore, whatever that box would contain, as something that is directing that towards me. So there's an aspect of creation sort of comes alive or starts speaking to me.
Correct, yeah.
The creativeness starts to matter because of that.
True.
My perception of something directed at me by some will or some power. So thank you.
Thank you, yeah. Sure.
I think after this point that if the things are directed to me and then realizing that there's a will, I think after this point I can ask, does this will belong to the universe, belong to the things?
Mm-hmm. Correct. If you look at the quality, because will is one of the qualities.
So I think the necessary point for me is to realize that the things are directed to me. I think that's the point. I mean, for me, it's very aha moment.
Right. Correct. Right. I'm the one experiencing or going through all. Right. The experience that I see in the universe, all the events, it's me as a human being that.
Yeah, the air I'm breathing in is directed to me, obviously. And so I can easily ask if this veil belongs to the universe or not. Can it be?
Yeah. Valid question.
You still have all.
I mean, even from yourself, you can see that everybody else, like fellow human beings, animals, they also are in need of the same. We can come to that understanding, right, by looking at observing the universe. That although, yeah, it's directed at me, but I see that other people are also benefiting from the same. So can this universe have that conscious will to satisfy everybody?
Actually, what I'm trying to say is a little bit more than what I said. Is that, it's like air plus energy plus and whatever, and equals something is not the reality of the universe at all.
Correct.
It's very far from It has nothing to do with me. As if like there's something and it's external to me. I'm just observing and deciding about the source of this action. It's not like that. I'm not sure if it is clear, but I think for me to question something, it has to have something to do with me personally.
We all coexist. The universe exists, tree exists, I exist, my human qualities exist at the moment, and they interact at the moment. So I cannot associate it. It is a universe, and I am something else observing it, externalizing myself.
Yes.
No, I am within the existence at the moment. That's what you are emphasizing on. I got it, I think.
Thank you. Thank you.